What is up? We're back, and this time we have a review of The Queen's Gambit. Maybe the best show on television this year. Maybe, I don't know. It's tough to say. There's still some more shows to come, but man, this show is fantastic. Nick, when did you first hear about the show, and what were your thoughts once you watched the series?
I found out about the show because of Anya Taylor-Joy. I've been a huge fan of her. She was M. Night Shyamalan's Split and its sequel Glass. She also showed up in the fifth season of Peaky Blinders, which is one of my favorite shows. So like she's like on the rise, and I follow her on Instagram. I've been keeping track of whatever she's in, and so like one day she just posted the trailer. I had no idea this was even a thing until she posted the trailer, and I was like, oh, okay. I was just like, okay, cool. I'll go see Anya Taylor-Joy in another product, not anticipating like how good it was. And I was just like, okay, it's a new Anya Taylor-Joy product. And then I was like, oh, it's like I think I just watched one of the best things like of 2020. I was like, this is incredible. It's I'm so glad. Like, it just by chance, like again, I had no idea it was coming, but I'm so glad I found out.
Yeah, I know for me, I saw the trailer for this because my YouTube algorithm suggests to me every single trailer that comes out, and I think I follow Netflix too, so that probably didn't hurt. And I was like, "This looks cool," and then the reviews started to come out. It's like Queen's Gambit may be the best television show of the year. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing, and I'm like, I haven't seen Anya Taylor. We've talked about this. I haven't seen Anya Taylor-Joy in anything. Now I'm like, oh my god,
Slacking, man, slacking.
she is so amazing in this series. Uh, I also want to give credit to the actress who does Beth Harmon's, who acts in the first episode as a younger Beth Harmon, because she is also fantastic. And I'm sorry, I don't have Isla Johnston's her name. Because she was fantastic in the first episode, giving us a look at and she pops in on other episodes too in flashbacks, and just giving us the idea of who Beth Harmon was as a kid. And I mean, I know this isn't a true story, but doesn't it feel like a true story the way it's told?
It has all the makings of a true like you would be like it comes off so much as a biopic, but then like you look and it's like it's based on something, and there is a book called The Queen's Gambit, but it's like it's not a true story at all. It's just whatever. I can't remember the author, I'm sorry, but it's just that author's imagination, even though it has all the elements of like a biopic in a way. Like it just hits all those notes.
Right. I mean, some of the details, this specificity of the matches, the way they build up Borgov throughout the
Yeah.
series, it all feels so real and taking place during the Cold War. I'm like, this is something that really could have happened, and all the plot lines seem like stuff that could really happen. And by the way, these are spoilers. There's always a point at the episode that we remember there are spoilers for the show. This is the point where we found it.
Yeah.
But now I'm gonna get into spoilers hard. Like Borgov and the dynamic when she flies to Russia, and the way she pushes back, and her whole character arc of like, you do not get to choose who I am as a person.
Hmm.
Um, and that independence, especially for a woman growing up during the Cold War. I mean, in that time period, the gender norms and what was like socially acceptable was much different than what it is now.
Hmm.
And so seeing someone who was much more progressive to the modern time living in that era was really fascinating. And to see what someone experiences being someone who's like a person out of time in a sense.
But I also feel like at the same time, like it's such a timeless story at the same time. Like yes, they obviously like fall back on a lot of like period details, but if you think about like there's such a large like application to like even like just the nature of her art, like from orphan to prodigy to addict to like victor and like overcoming everything. Like there's such a range of like app- applicability to the show that is just like it's timeless, and that's why I hope it will like the hype will remain where it is. Like I don't think it's getting enough of the hype and attention it deserves, and so I'm hoping like because I think everyone can like jump into the series. There's no need to like be like, oh, I'm interested in that era. I'm gonna go check this out. It's like no, like it's just a it's just a very easily like you can enter it like very easily.
Right. And the first episode, because I don't want to stop giving the pilot credit.
Mhm.
I haven't watched, I don't know, I haven't seen a better pilot in a while, even in television shows I love. I mean, maybe with the exception of, I don't even know, it may have been a better pilot than Euphoria, because I love Euphoria is one of my favorite shows on television. But I mean, just the way get introduced to this character, how this orphanage she's at, or what do they call it, an adoption center or something like
Yeah,
that. Um,
yeah, something like that.
just gives them these green tranquilizer pills, right? I'll never make a chill pill joke again after what happens to her. But I mean, and just seeing how someone who has such a troubled past and is put in such a difficult situation where the people don't seem to really care about her in the
Yeah,
orphanage. And it's the way they get you to feel for this person, Beth. I mean, it holds throughout the whole series. So when she does the things that she shouldn't do or makes the bad decisions, you're like, I understand why. And
and
there's
like
that deep
yeah,
connection you get.
and I feel like the success of the pilot really speaks to the writing structure of the whole thing. Just because like in a normal TV show, your character is introduced not fully formed, but like in a stable outline of who they are, and then you just kind of like take them from there. Like even like Better Call Saul does that with the title character, but here we're like the new. I almost called it the New Mutants. That's the other thing on it. Completely on the other end of on the other end of the spectrum. But in the Queen's Gambit, like you spend so much time with her as a child. Like Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't really fully show up as her until like halfway through like the second episode or something, right? And like then you just follow her from like 8 years old, 13 years old, like 20s, and then like you just see that natural just like and because like I feel like it's not a biopic, so they're not like building to a specific like concert or anything like in Bohemian Rhapsody. They're just like you're just following her throughout her life. You're just seeing it naturally as they occur, and like every episode is just different. Like there's no set structure. Everyone, she's always in a different place, always dealing with something new, always dealing with new people. And I just love that. Like it was just a different episode and just felt like it felt like reading a book in a way, just that always shifting nature of it. And that's like the writing is just like that's why I credit the writing with so much, that always changing nature of it.
And one of the things that I really loved is how they evolved the relationship between Beth and her adopted mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because that relationship starts out and you're within the first 5 to 10 minutes, you realize it's purely a transactional exchange. They want money.
Yeah.
And then the husband leaves and they're kind of forced to grow, be a family. They don't
Mm-hmm.
really have a choice. And when she starts to get into chess and she wins a tournament and her mom realizes that she's this prodigy, you feel like she's just taking advantage of her for the money, which
And
in a sense she
yeah.
is. She is. I mean, that's the truth, but it evolves into something more than that. When her mom dies, Beth really feels lost. And there was that connection. And it's fascinating because you get these really flawed characters like her mother, who's an alcoholic, who is kind of lost in life and doesn't know what she's going to do and is taking advantage of her daughter. But you feel deeply for her.
Right.
And the talent of writing something like that and evolving, like making characters so three-dimensional, makes it that this show is just like boosted to the next level because it's not just the
Yeah.
central characters.
Mm-hmm. And like the all of the supporting cast feels like more than just like a caricature. Everyone, there's something to everyone. Like hell, even like Borgoff, who says like 5 words in like his first 2 episode appearances, but like the writing just gives him so much gravitas and so much like presence that you understand who he is, and even by the end, like he is the opponent, but I never felt he was just like some like the classic like, oh, like sports opponent, like just some like unbeatable like person. There was like this like I don't even know what to call it. Like it just this quality to him that prevented him from being some sort of caricature, and like it's present in him, is present in God, I can't even remember his name. Thomas Brody Sangster's character, the one with the cowboy hat.
Oh, Benny Watts.
There you go. Like yeah, like him and Henry Melling's character, like they were firmly supporting cast. Like they never overshadowed Anya, but like they still all felt like they got like developed in their own way. And I just love that. Like I think especially with Borgov, that's where it really showed.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I want to get into, we'll go circle back to other actors in the show,
Mhm.
but I want to get into how they shot all of the chess stuff.
Yeah.
Because all these chess matches could have gotten really boring. But the way they shot it, I think the sound mixing for it was just like perfect. They knew exactly how to cut, exactly how to create tension. A lot of that's close-ups and that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
It never felt boring, and something where, I know I didn't have much of an idea of going on. I have a very limited background in knowing how chess works.
Mhm.
I never felt lost. I never felt like I was confused with what was going on.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes they used in Mexico City, when they were in Mexico City, they used
Yeah.
the Spanish commentator with the subtitles, but a lot of times it was just silence and the two of them playing chess.
It reminds me a lot of the poker scenes in Casino Royale. Like I know nothing about poker, like but like you always got like that's what's just great filmmaking. You able to, even if you know nothing about what's happening, but like you still know what's happening in that way. Like you from understand like, oh, this is bad. She's screwed here. It's like, oh, she just came back. Like that alone, and the editing and the chess choreography. I never thought I'd experience a chess choreography that's like all of that just came together like really well, and that's just good filmmaking overall. And I guess also again just good writing.
Yeah, I think that's shown throughout the show. Everything's so detailed in the progression from scene to scene that it's flawless, to be perfectly honest. And the evolution of Anya Taylor-Joy's character feels really, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. It feels, even in the way she looks, like the hair, makeup, and costume department
Mhm.
uh, were fantastic, because when she ages in the show, you can see it,
Yeah.
even though she's the same age, and it feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. It's just like, yeah, she feels this age now, and they don't even need to tell you when they jump, like do a
Mhm.
time jump. You can just kind of feel it. Um, I have my mom, who sometimes gets confused when there are time jumps anytime in a film.
Yeah.
Didn't ask a single question about it. I was amazed. I was
Yeah.
like, I was expecting like 5 or 6 of these, but she is completely unnoticeable. But it's a
It's
part of the film.
subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the key word too. Like it's all subtle. They never like beat you over the head with like exposition or information or like even like her character arc. They just let it like they just like let it happen, and like it never feels like you're lost, or it never feels like they're being overly obvious about it.
hmm What were some of your standout moments from the show?
Trying to think. Oh, it's been a bit. I'll say the one that's coming to mind right now is her second match with like that 10-year-old in Mexico. Like
hmm
like the first half of it, she's like getting worn out, she's getting frustrated, and the kid's not being like a jackass about it, but he's just kind of like, do you want to like stop? And then she goes back to her room. She like plans out like the entire rest of the game, and then she like ends it the next day in like 30 seconds. Like that's like an exaggeration, but that's how it feels. Like the kid is like utterly like like crane kicked in the face, to make a Karate Kid reference. Like he's completely like that right there. That was like just one like great, just a great like moment, just the way it was like shot and done, and also just a great like moment for Beth. Just like she wasn't gonna she wasn't gonna take it. She was like fully ready. You saw her at like the height of her like ability, at least at that moment in time.
Right.
So that wasn't a great moment.
I love that moment too.
Mhm.
I just want to barge in a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Go back, but that moment where she does her first move and she just walks away and he's confused, right?
Mhm.
And it's a complete. She's playing mind games with him. She's trying to get him to lose a step. And he's like, "What is she doing? What is she so certain of?"
Mhm.
And the second he does a move, she walks right back and then walks away. And she's just staring at him from not sitting across from him, just in different positions, making him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's this claim of power in saying that I am the best, I am going to win, and you should be scared of me because I'm that good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's just in that moment you felt how obviously there were moments before like when she defeated Henry Melling in the second episode, but like here in that moment, she like decimated the Ginyu at that moment, like by like she is as good as like we've been followed like that was her at like just the height of her ability at that moment. So that was just like incredibly just like satisfying and just like impactful moment. I'm trying to recall what else. Um
oh, I have a good one.
uh,
So the character who turns out to be gay, who
yeah, I remember.
she fell in love with. I love how they subvert expectations there. That she goes into this and you're kind of uncomfortable because this guy's like way older than her, right? But she's kind of in love with him, and you're like, oh no, something's going to go wrong here.
Yeah.
And I love how they completely flip it on a switch. And she's confused, she's expecting something, and then the other guy comes out and she's like, oh snap, he's gay. And,
Yeah.
and she had fallen in love with him over the years, over the few meetings, because he was the one guy who treated her with respect and had been, kind and encouraging to her, whereas everyone else, Harry's character, Harry Beltic,
Yeah.
had, was very cocky and smug when they first meet. He was always there, and she falls in love with him, and you can see how difficult it is for her to grapple with that throughout the rest of the show, because in her other relationships, I think there's a subconscious part of her that's always thinking like, that's the only guy I've ever really loved. And she talks about that too. It's in either the last or the second to last episode, with her friend from the
Orphanage.
orphanage.
Yeah, the adoption center.
Jolene.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she talks about it. And I love the way when she goes to Russia, she gets that sense of closure. I think the way they orchestrated that and comparing that, like her being able to mature as a character and using that as kind of like a more direct way of showing her like more inner struggles and maturing throughout the whole film. I think that was really, really beautifully done.
I think also any scene between her and Benny Watts was scripted really well. The dialogue was like really on the dialogue in this whole thing was on fire, but in particular their scenes, it was like really good. And particularly I liked the both speed chess scenes. The first one where he keeps like ripping her off and then she rips him off at the end. Like that was just a great like mirror to each other. That was such a great like executed moment. And that's the thing I wanted to say too. Like I like that she like lost, like as good as she was, she lost throughout the series too. Like kind of like there was a vulnerability there, like there was a chance of like, oh, she might not be able to do this. Like, in Rocky, for instance, you kind of see him like getting beaten up in that first, like the very first fight at the beginning. So like, oh, he's not gonna like this won't be some sort of easy, fight for him at the end with Apollo. And here, like, she's amazing. She is definitely the best part in the whole thing. But you're reminded that like she can lose. And I thought like the choice to have her lose to Borgov like twice, I thought that was like very powerful and it made the finale so much more satisfying.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the things in the finale, because that episode is amazing. There actually two things. The first one is when she gets the phone call, and it's like the Avengers of chess, right, over the phone. You're like, yes, let's go. And it should feel cheesy, right?
Yeah.
But it feels so earned.
I'm glad you used that word because I was thinking it too, but I didn't want to say anything. So I'm glad you used that word.
Yeah. it should feel cheesy, but to
Mm.
me at least it didn't, because it felt so earned. And she had been alone this whole series with people who had been trying to support her, but she wouldn't accept it.
Mhm.
She was brushing them off. And in the series finale, you know, she's like, let's do it. Let's figure everything out.
Yeah.
And you know, they talk about the Russians are always working together, and you see that throughout. You know, in Mexico City, he has the second and third best chess player in the world, you
Yeah.
know, with him at the tournament, telling him what moves to do. And then she's all alone. And then at the very end, she embraces everyone in her life who's trying to help her and bring her up.
Right.
And that moment just so solidly puts that
Yeah.
into the spotlight.
Yeah.
And I also think it brings together the storyline of like the Americans, you know, being selfish. They don't want to help each other.
Yeah. I also wanted to add, because you just recalled another moment I really love. The scene, yeah, it was the finale. It's the scene where she plays like the older guy, and like she finishes him, and he's just like he's just so appreciative of the loss. Like he's just like, I think I've just played the best player ever. Like that was just so like satisfying, and like the fact he was just so humble about it, and the fact he was just like he was just like, you know, just appreciative of the fact that he got even to play with her. Like he recognized her talent, and the fact that Borgov basically did the same thing. Like he hugged her at the end. I was like, that's so cool. I was like, for villains of a sports show, especially Russian villains, I was like, you guys were actually pretty handled like pretty well. I've got to say, it was very quiet, very subtle, but like the way it all ended up, I was like very impressed with it.
Yeah, that was a great like 2 or 3 scene character.
Hmm.
Um, in just like a way of building up her confidence and reaffirming in her that she is, you know, she goes into this episode thinking, I can't beat Borgov, I'm not good enough. And in that moment, he reaffirms in her the belief that like,
Right.
I am the best, I will beat Borgov.
Yeah.
And just the buildup of all these different connected scenes in the final episode are they make that finale so great.
Right. This is classic like heroism structure. We see it with Star Wars all the time and whatnot, but at the same time, it never felt like, oh, like we're at this point in this story, we're at this point. Like it just felt again natural. It felt subtle. It felt like you were just following her through her life. But like we don't know the particular endpoint, because again, this isn't a biopic, so we can't just Google like where does she end up. We're just following her as she's encountering these problems, as she like loses, as she gets back up, and like for it all to come together at the end. Oh man, this thing is gonna get so many Emmy nominations. I just hope that it wins, unless something insane comes out in the next few months. But
Right.
yeah, it better be insane because this was just so good in so many aspects.
Yeah, finishing talking up about the pilot, the scene with between Beth where she gets out of the car
Mhm.
on her way back to the US and just decides to go play chess with a bunch
Yeah,
of locals, and she's getting her hand shook by everyone, and this kind of worldwide admiration for who she is, and just that feeling of being loved and appreciated. And there's something really authentic about it. Whereas like getting written about in the newspaper feels, you know, it falls flat. It's not real. But
yeah,
these people who don't know her, they just care about like they're impressed that she's such a great chess player, and
yeah,
they're
and
admiring that.
and the fact that like going, what was it, like she was like invited to the White House or something, right, at the end.
Right.
Like the fact that she was like, she didn't want that. That wasn't true to her character. She was just like, I'm just here for like myself. I'm here to like prove something to myself. And like, so when she goes out at the end, kind of like free and like just like not like following anyone's like particular demands or rules. Like she's just free at the end. It's just like, I don't know. And she starts like, she just won the biggest chess tournament ever, and she's just playing with some guys on the street. Like that was just really cool place to end.
Right. And it's a humbling place to be in, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for
And
sure.
I think it shows her maturation from being someone who, you know, at some point she feels like she's a very prestigious person.
Hmm.
Like when she goes into that restaurant that one time and eats by herself, you know,
Hmm.
and it's I'll just have a Coke, and then she actually orders a drink
Yeah.
and gets really wasted, and
Mhm.
she's going to this very prestigious place because she feels like, you know, everyone in her life's told her that she is all this like so talented and she is this spectacular person.
Right.
And the arc from her being going from being someone who nobody knew to this like instant rise to fame, and it's dealing with fame and kind of that whole arc of how do you deal with fame and coming back to being humble about everything that you had and remembering where you started off from.
Right. Do you want to do a speed run on just Anya's performance or performances in general?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Jolene. Jolene, the younger Jolene's very good. When she's older, I think it's the same actress who plays both. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me try and see.
Hold on. I'll IMDb this real quick. But
it does appear to say that she is the same one, kind of the same way how like Anya played like 13-year-old Beth and like the second episode, and then like just progressed from there.
Right. Yeah. I think it is the same one.
Okay.
She is fantastic in this series. She is the source of wisdom. She is the caretaker for Anya when she's not necessarily the best caretaker, giving her extra of those pills. But, at the end when she comes back to like put Anya's life back together essentially, and that whole relationship and pushing each other up is really important. And I just think the actress who played Jolene, hold on, let me get her name because she deserves
Moses Ingram, according to Moses Ingram.
She deserves so much credit because she is fantastic. She needs to be in more shows.
Yeah, for sure. And then when like she Thomas Brody Sangster as Benny, like those are just great supporting characters, and all of it supplemented by Anya Taylor-Joy, who's just so good. She's just so very good. She's again playing into the idea of like subtlety and like the natural aspect of the show. Like she manages her whole character arc really efficiently. Like I've seen things where like addicts are like, can be like out of control and like very like this is the bit she has to be like one of the quieter addicts I've seen. Like if you know what, like if I'm like if I'm explaining that right. And like it just there's just that sense of like she's keeping it to herself. She has like that very inner quality, and throughout all the episodes you just watch her like transform, but it's all just so quiet and like I would hope she's getting an Emmy nomination if she doesn't win, and like she has to get a nomination. She's just too good in the show, and this an already amazing show.
I would bet money that she gets a nomination. I would bet a lot of money that she gets. There's no way she doesn't. It's too good of a performance not to.
Very much.
And so. I mean, we're gonna start wrapping this up, but there's just so much to talk about that we can't.
Do you want to wrap up with favorite episode?
Oh yeah. Let's do that. I just want to say that a few things before we get there, as far as the way they handle drug abuse, like you were starting to get into, is amazing. Is like so fantastic. The way they handle being lonely, the way they handle loss, the way they handle the relationship between her and Mr. Scheibel.
Right.
And the episode where they go back and she kind of reflects upon her relationship, and he was following her the whole time. That's so hard. To me, that was really heartbreaking that he had followed her the whole time. And the one thing throughout the episodes, I was like, why have you never gone back? He's the guy. You haven't gone back to the person who taught you to play chess, the person who helped you push you forward to be in the place you are. And so when she goes back and realizes she should have done that and she wasn't there, that
right,
like her emotion in that scene is so heartbreaking. But yeah, let's move on into favorite episode. What was your favorite episode?
I've honestly thought about it a lot, and I think episode 4, Middle Game, aka the Mexico episode, is my favorite just because like it's just like a perfectly like paced episode. Everything like they get to Mexico. The mom like meets up with a friend, and like that's kind of like on Beth's mind because she's not totally on board with that. This is the episode where this is the episode with the photographer guy. Gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Right, that's the episode he comes back in.
Is it? It might be.
No, wait.
No, I
That's the
thought
LA.
he was
That was
in
the LA episode.
yeah, the Vegas.
Okay, excuse me. Now I'm remembering another moment then. But like that's the episode where that's where my moment with the 10-year-old happened. That's the moment where she loses to Borgoff at the same time, and then that is compounded by when she discovers her mom, and I believe Benny Watts even like shows up like in that episode. And for me, the Mexico episode just touches on everything it needs to, and every like all the themes about loneliness, about addiction are shown through her and her mother. You see her kind of experience her first loss in all sorts of aspects. It's like, and like just the way it helps, like middle game is where everything changes after. Like she is like because they take the mom out of the picture, and so she is fully on her own. And the way that sets up like the rest of the show, like it's such a great like middle episode, and I think everything that like about the show is like centered on in there.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the finale. I mean, I've talked about it all day, but I just can't stop. So many shows have great series and then can't wrap everything up in the finale.
Yeah.
Not looking at you, Game of Thrones. Okay, maybe, but I think this show just wraps up everything so perfectly. It's so intricately constructed to get to that point where all these storylines converge and just mesh so well that I can't. It's almost unfathomable to me how well constructed and how well written this film is. And I'm going to shout out the creator Scott Frank and I think
Scott
Alan
Frank, yeah.
Scott, because they did an amazing. I don't know. They just did an amazing job. I mean, I assume they're in very high demand after this series.
Well, I hope Frank is, and I know that Anya's Furiosa, as we touched on. God, it feels forever ago, like a few weeks ago, and yeah, she's
Yeah,
this
she's in.
better. This has to be it. Like she's already been like an emerging actress for so long already. Like this has to be it. Especially hopefully if our Emmy predicts work out. Like this is it. This is such a star making role. If it was like for anyone, it was just great all around.
Yeah, and she's also I almost said Anya Taylor-Joy, in Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho.
That's right. Yes, working with
Um,
Edgar Wright and George Miller, and I believe she's working with the Lighthouse director Robert Eggers as well. So
yeah, she is. I can't
she
remember.
she is going to be busy regardless, and I'm just really glad like now people are like starting to take notice
Yeah,
of her.
she's an amazing actress. I know now I'm going to go and watch a bunch of films of hers because
Mhm.
I need to see more performances from her because she's just
Right.
so fantastic.
Mhm.
But that wraps up this review of The Queen's Gambit. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the series. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.